I came home 2 days earlier than planned. That decision still feels neutral in my memory. Not dramatic, not impulsive, just practical. The show in New York wrapped faster than expected. The buyers signed. The numbers were clean. I thought it would be nice to surprise my husband. 5 years of marriage deserved at least that. The car rolled through the gates just after noon. The house looked the same. White stone, clean lines, quiet. Too quiet now that I think about it. Inside, my heels echoed across the marble floor. I remember noticing that the air felt warmer than usual, like the climate system had been adjusted recently. A small thing. At the time, it meant nothing. Then I saw the lace. Black, delicate, thrown over the back of the living room sofa as if it had no value. It didn't belong to me. I don't own lace like that. I design clothes for a living. I know what I buy. I know what I don't. For a moment, my mind reached for excuses. Laundry mix-up, a guest, anything reasonable. That reflex was almost automatic. 5 years of marriage teaches you to protect the structure first. I walked toward the stairs. Another piece of clothing lay on the step. Then another. A careless trail, leading upward. Each step slowed me down. Not because I was afraid, but because some part of me was already documenting details. The angle of the light, the sound of voices upstairs. Laughter. Familiar laughter. That was when I knew. The bedroom door was slightly open. I didn't push it right away. I stood there, listening. My own breathing sounded loud to me, measured but heavy. Inside, 2 voices moved easily, comfortably. One of them belonged to my husband, Marcus. The other belonged to Naomi Cross, my best friend, the woman who had stood next to me at our wedding, the woman who had held my hands when my first collection failed, the woman who knew which side of the bed I slept on. I stepped forward and pushed the door open. They were in my bed. Not rushed, not startled. Just there, as if the room belonged to them. Marcus looked up first. His face went blank, then sharp. Naomi didn't even try to cover herself. She laughed lightly, the way people do when they think charm can erase context. "Alara," she said, stretching my name like we had run into each other at a cafe. "You're back early." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. My hand moved before I consciously decided to raise it. The sound was loud, clean, a single strike. Naomi screamed and stumbled back, clutching her face. Blood appeared immediately. It surprised her more than it surprised me. Marcus reacted fast. His fist drove into my stomach with precision, not rage. The air left my lungs in one sharp release. I bent forward, trying to inhale, but my body lagged behind my intention. Pain spread, dull and heavy. "Have you lost your mind?" he shouted. I looked up at him. My vision blurred at the edges, but I could still see his expression clearly. He wasn't shocked. He wasn't ashamed. He was angry. At me. "You're protecting her," I said. The words came out slow, measured. Each one cost effort. That's interesting. He grabbed my hair and pulled my head back, forcing me to look at him. "She's a cross," he said. "Do you understand that? And you're nothing without me. Everything you have exists because I allowed it." The room felt very quiet then. Naomi stood near the wall, wrapped in a sheet, her confidence draining rapidly. She had finally realized that something had shifted. Marcus dragged me toward the door. I tried to resist, but pain makes your body inefficient. At the top of the staircase, he shoved me forward. Time fractured. I remember the sound of my body hitting marble. Once. Twice. More times than I can count. Each impact landed somewhere new. Then my right leg struck the railing at an angle that didn't belong to human anatomy. There was a sound. A sharp, final sound. Not a crack. A snap. I didn't scream. I couldn't. The pain was too immediate, too complete. It erased everything else. I lay at the bottom of the stairs, my leg twisted wrong, my breath shallow. Marcus walked down slowly, like he had nowhere else to be. He kicked my broken leg once, hard. "Now you know your place," he said. I didn't answer. I didn't have the strength. He grabbed my arm and dragged me across the foyer. My blood left a trail on the floor. I noticed that detail. the color against white marble. I remember thinking it would be hard to clean. The basement door opened. Cold air rushed out. The smell of damp concrete and old paint filled my nose. He threw me inside and slammed the door shut. "Stay there," he said. "Maybe you'll think more clearly." The lock clicked. Darkness settled quickly. The floor was cold. My leg pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. I pressed my hand against it, not to fix anything, just to feel where my body still was. Time moved strangely down there. Minutes stretched, thoughts drifted in and out. Betrayal came first. Then disbelief. Then a quiet clarity. This wasn't a moment of rage. This was character. Marcus hadn't lost control. He had revealed it. I lay there, breathing carefully, conserving energy. Somewhere upstairs, life continued. The house held its shape. The walls didn't collapse. The world didn't intervene. That was when I understood something important. No one was coming unless I made the call myself. I shifted my weight carefully and reached into the lining of my coat. My fingers brushed against something solid. A second phone. An old habit. Designers learn to hide things. Sketches, notes, options. The screen lit up faintly. Signal was weak, battery low. Enough. I sat there in the dark, the pain steady, my mind clear. The decision had already been made, not out of anger, not out of fear, out of necessity. I typed the number I hadn't used in 20 years, and waited. If you're watching this, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. And if this story touches you, comment below where you're listening from. This is a story that deserves to be heard. Now, let me take you back to the beginning. The phone rang longer than I expected. Each tone felt heavier than the last. Not because I doubted the connection, but because I was measuring time differently now. Battery percentage, signal strength, pain management. I pressed my back against the concrete wall and adjusted my leg carefully, minimizing movement. There was no point in panic. Panic wastes energy. On the fourth ring, the line connected. Elara. He said my name without hesitation. No question. No confirmation. Just certainty. 20 years without contact, and still, he knew. That alone told me he had never truly disappeared. "It's me," I said. My voice sounded unfamiliar to my own ears. Steady, low, controlled. I didn't cry. I didn't raise it. "I need help." There was a pause. Not long, but intentional. "What happened?" he asked. I chose my words carefully. "Facts first. My husband assaulted me. My leg is broken. I'm locked in the basement of our house." Another pause. I could hear breathing on the other end. Slow, deliberate. Victor Voss was not a man who reacted loudly. "Send your location," he said. "I already did." "Good. Stay conscious. Do not move unless you have to." The line stayed open. He didn't say goodbye. He didn't need to. I leaned my head back against the wall and closed my eyes. The concrete was cold, grounding. I focused on small things. The sound of water in the pipes. The hum of the electrical system above me. Proof that the house was still alive. Minutes passed. Then more. I adjusted my breathing to match it. Slow inhale. Longer exhale. That kept the nausea away. Footsteps echoed above me. At first, I thought it was my imagination. Trauma does that. But then I heard voices. Not Marcus. Not Naomi. Men I didn't recognize. Calm. Efficient. Something heavy struck the basement door. Once, twice. On the third impact, the hinges gave way. The door crashed inward, metal screaming against concrete. Light flooded the room, sharp and white. I shielded my eyes instinctively. A man stepped into view. Tall, broad shoulders, dressed in dark tactical clothing. His movements were precise, economical. He scanned the room quickly, then knelt in front of me. "Elara," he said. "I'm Jonah." He didn't ask permission before examining my leg. He didn't apologize either. His hands were firm but careful, his expression neutral. "Compound fracture," he said quietly. "You did the right thing not moving." I nodded once. He lifted me with controlled strength. avoiding unnecessary pressure. As we moved upstairs, I caught fragments of the scene I had missed. Two of Marcus' security guards lay unconscious near the foyer. One of them had a split lip. The other wasn't moving at all, though I could see his chest rising. No blood. Clean work. In the living room, Marcus was on his knees. His hands were bound behind his back. His suit was wrinkled, his face pale. There was a bruise forming near his temple. Naomi was crouched near the wall, wrapped in a robe, shaking. Her confidence was gone, replaced by something closer to disbelief. Marcus looked up when he saw me. "Who are these people?" he asked, his voice thin. I met his eyes. I didn't smile. "Family?" I said. Jonah carried me past them without stopping. Outside, a black SUV waited near the gates. The engine was already running. The door opened before we reached it. Victor Voss sat inside. He looked older than I remembered. Gray threaded through his hair. Deep lines cut into his face, etched by years of decisions that couldn't be undone. But his eyes were the same. Sharp, focused, alive. For a moment, he just looked at me. At my leg. At the dried blood on my hands. Then something flickered across his expression. Brief. Almost invisible. "Get her to North Shore Private," he said to the driver. "Call Dr. Levin. Tell him to prepare an operating room." The door closed. The SUV moved smoothly through the gates. Victor adjusted a cushion beneath my leg himself. The gesture was careful, almost reverent. He didn't speak right away, neither did I. Silence settled between us, not awkward, but heavy with years unspoken. "I told your mother I would never interfere," he said finally. "She wanted you away from all this." "I know," I said. I kept my distance, watched from afar. "School, your career, the marriage." He paused. "I knew where you were. I just didn't step in." I stared at the ceiling as the city blurred past outside the window. "If I had known he was capable of this," Victor continued, "I would have acted." I turned my head slightly. "You didn't know," I said. "And neither did I." The hospital lights were too bright, too clean. Staff moved quickly when they saw us. No questions, no delays. Paperwork was handled by someone else. Consent forms appeared. I signed where indicated, my name steady despite the pain. The anesthesia came fast. When I woke up, the room was quiet. Expensive quiet. Soft lighting. Monitors humming at a low, controlled frequency. My leg was elevated, wrapped carefully. Pain dulled to a manageable presence. Victor sat in a chair beside the bed. He was holding my hand. "You're going to recover," he said. "The surgery went well." I nodded once. He leaned forward slightly. "Now I need to know something." I looked at him, really looked. At the man I had avoided for half my life. The man the city feared. The man who had come the moment I asked. "What do you want to do about your husband?" he asked. The question was direct. No suggestions. No assumptions. Just an opening. I thought of the basement. The door. The sound of my leg breaking. The way Marcus had looked at me, not with rage, but with entitlement. "I don't want him dead," I said. Victor studied my face, searching for hesitation. He found none. "Death is too simple," I continued. "I want him to lose everything he believes protects him. His business, his money, his reputation." Silence followed. Not resistance. Calculation. Victor nodded slowly. A thin smile appeared, sharp and restrained. "That can be arranged," he said. "But it won't be clean. And it won't be safe." "I understand." He leaned back in his chair. For the first time, his expression shifted into something like pride. "You sound like me," he said. I didn't respond to that. I didn't need to. I stared out the window as evening settled over the city. Lights flickered on, one by one. Life continuing. Unaware. In that moment, something inside me stabilized. I wasn't trapped anymore. I wasn't reacting. I was choosing. Recovery gives you time to think. Not the kind of thinking that spirals or panics, the kind that sharpens. The room was quiet, monitored, controlled. Nurses came and went. Legal documents followed. Everything moved with precision. My father doesn't rush systems, he replaces them. Marcus tried to see me on the third day. I was informed before he arrived. A polite knock, a nurse with a clipboard. Your husband is requesting a visit. Requesting, not demanding. That word told me everything I needed to know. Yes, I said. Let him in. The cameras were already active, discreet, fixed angles, no blinking lights. Jonah had handled the setup himself. Hospital-approved equipment, consent forms signed under my name, everything documented. Marcus entered alone. He looked smaller. Not physically, but structurally. His suit was wrinkled, his tie uneven. Sleep deprivation sat under his eyes like bruises. He carried flowers, too many, a poor strategic choice. Elara, he said, stepping closer. His voice trembled just enough to register sincerity. I'm so sorry. I didn't answer immediately. Silence has weight when you allow it to sit. I wasn't myself, he continued. I lost control. It will never happen again. I turned my head slightly to look at him. Calm, observant. You didn't lose control, I said. You exercised it. He swallowed. I love you, he said quickly. Naomi meant nothing. She took advantage of a moment. I ended it. I watched him lie with professional interest. The cadence, the avoidance of specifics, the shifting blame. It was almost educational. I forgive you, I said softly. Relief broke across his face before he could stop it. His shoulders dropped. His breath released. Thank you, he whispered. I'll do anything to fix this. I nodded once. That would be wise. He reached for my hand. I let him take it. The cameras captured the angle cleanly. His grip. His desperation. His promises. I'll be better, he said. I'll prove it. I'm sure you will, I replied. He left 10 minutes later, lighter than when he arrived. He believed the danger had passed. It hadn't even begun. That afternoon, Jonah brought me a tablet. Cloud access, he said. Your credentials still work. Marcus had always been careless with passwords. Confidence breeds laziness. I navigated his accounts without resistance. Email, financial software, internal servers. Everything opened like a door, left unlocked on purpose. The first folder confirmed the obvious. Hotel reservations, private apartments, transfers labeled as consulting fees. Naomi's name appeared frequently, disguised poorly under shell vendors and personal reimbursements. Dates aligned neatly with my absences. I copied everything. The second folder was more interesting. Transaction records, off-book payroll, inflated invoices, subcontractor kickbacks, a construction company's shadow life, running parallel to the public one. Clean enough to survive a surface audit, dirty enough to collapse under scrutiny. I documented each item carefully. Screenshots, downloaded files, metadata intact. Documents are leverage, opinions are noise. That evening, Victor visited again. I handed him the tablet without ceremony. He reviewed the files silently, scrolling, absorbing. When he finished, he looked at me differently, not like a father, like a partner. You're thinking long-term, he said. Yes. He nodded. I'll start acquiring shares, quietly, through intermediaries. How much? Enough. That was his way of saying control. The next week passed in controlled motion. Physical therapy began. Pain decreased. My mind grew clearer. Marcus sent messages daily. Apologies, reassurances, updates about work he wanted me to hear. Each one was archived automatically. Naomi stayed silent. She was hiding. I knew that, because silence was new for her. People like Naomi don't disappear unless something has frightened them. On the 7th day, Victor returned with a folder. Background on the Cross family, he said, placing it on the table. Nothing illegal on paper. Plenty beneath it. I didn't open it yet. Focus on Hale first, I said. Cross comes later. Victor smiled faintly. Approval. The anniversary gala was already scheduled. Public. Lavish. Mandatory attendance from investors, partners, city officials. Canceling it would raise questions. Proceeding with it would provide answers. Let it happen, I said. Exactly as planned. The week before the gala, I was discharged. Marcus insisted on picking me up himself. I allowed it. Public perception matters. He played the concerned husband convincingly. Doors opened, cameras flashed. Sympathy traveled faster than truth. At home, nothing had changed. The house smelled the same. Looked the same. The stairs had been repaired. Polished. As if the fall had never happened. That night, Marcus hovered. "Tell me what you need," he said. "Anything." I met his eyes. "I need rest," I said. "And access to your office computer. I want to feel included again." He hesitated. Barely. Then nodded. "Of course," he said. "Whatever makes you comfortable." That night, after he fell asleep, I went to his office. The laptop was exactly where I expected it to be. Password unchanged, files untouched. Arrogance is predictable. I copied everything. When I finished, I sat in the chair and allowed myself one moment of reflection. Not grief. Not rage. Assessment. Marcus believed power came from ownership. He was wrong. Power comes from records. The gala approached. Victor's acquisitions progressed. Quiet transactions, shell companies, no patterns that could be traced easily. By the time Marcus noticed, it would be too late. I returned to bed before dawn. Marcus stirred but didn't wake. His hand brushed against my arm in sleep. Familiar. Meaningless. I stared at the ceiling and felt something settle into place. This wasn't revenge driven by emotion. This was restructuring, and I was ready. Pain teaches patience. By the time I could walk unassisted again, the cast was still visible, deliberate. I kept it that way. Injuries tell stories before you speak. I let mine speak for me. Marcus watched my recovery closely. Not out of concern. Out of fear. He hovered when others were around and disappeared when they weren't. He believed proximity equaled control. It didn't. The morning of the gala arrived quietly. No tension. No alarms. I ate breakfast alone and reviewed a short list Jonah had left on my tablet. Confirmations. Timelines. Equipment checks. Legal clearances. Everything was in order. Marcus entered the kitchen in a tailored tuxedo, adjusting his cufflinks. "You don't have to come tonight," he said carefully. "People will understand." "I'm coming," I replied. He didn't argue. He never did when my voice sounded like that. The venue was downtown, all glass and polished steel, the kind of place designed to project permanence. Valets lined the entrance. Cameras flashed. Names were checked against lists. I stepped out of the car slowly, leaning lightly on a cane. Conversations paused as heads turned. Sympathy is contagious in rooms like that. Whispers followed me across the marble floor. I didn't rush. I let them look. Inside, music played softly. Champagne flowed. Investors clustered in practiced groups. City officials smiled for photographs. Everyone pretended not to stare at my leg. Naomi stood near the back of the room. She wore white, a poor choice. Her eyes followed me until I passed. She didn't approach. She didn't smile. Fear had taught her new manners. An older man introduced Marcus on stage. Applause followed. Words like growth, vision, and integrity filled the air. I listened without reacting. When he finished, I stood. "May I?" I asked, holding out my hand for the microphone. The room quieted. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He couldn't refuse without explanation. "I have something prepared," I said calmly. "A personal message." The lights dimmed. The screen came to life. No dramatic music, no edits designed to inflame. Just timestamps, clear footage. Marcus and Naomi in my bedroom. The date visible in the corner. The day of my surgery. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone dropped a glass. It shattered loudly. No one moved to clean it up. The video transitioned smoothly. Bank records, transfers, account names, itemized lists, objective, unemotional. Then audio. Marcus' voice, recorded clearly. "Ignore the safety reports. We'll deal with it after delivery." Silence settled heavily. I took the microphone again. "I forgive my husband," I said evenly. "We all make mistakes. What matters is how we correct them." Marcus stared at me, his face drained of color. He didn't speak. He couldn't. Security remained still. No one intervened. This was a private event. Legally, Naomi fled. She tripped near the exit and didn't look back. I handed the microphone to the host and sat down. Applause didn't come immediately. It never does when truth enters a room uninvited. It came later, fragmented, uncertain. The next morning, Hale Group stock opened lower. By noon, it was falling. Law firms called. Regulators requested information. Journalists requested statements. All requests were routed through counsel. No public responses. No denials. Silence again. Strategic. Marcus confronted me that evening. His anger was quiet, contained, dangerous, but restrained. "You humiliated me," he said. "No," I replied. "I documented you." He stepped closer. I didn't move. "You think your father can protect you forever?" I met his eyes. "I think records outlive threats." He left without another word. That night, Victor called. "The board is nervous," he said. "Good. Proceed," I replied. Within 48 hours, an emergency shareholders meeting was scheduled. I attended remotely. My name appeared on the agenda as a proxy holder. Marcus noticed then. His expression shifted from anger to calculation. The vote was efficient. Marcus was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Authority transferred temporarily to an interim committee. Control is rarely lost in a single moment. It erodes, quietly, publicly. When the meeting ended, I closed my laptop and leaned back. For the first time since the fall, I felt something like calm. Blood would have been faster, but this was cleaner, and it was working. Once a structure begins to crack, it tells you where to apply pressure. I didn't rush the next phase. Speed creates noise, and noise attracts witnesses you don't want yet. I stayed home, visibly recovering, visibly compliant. Marcus believed the worst had already happened. He was wrong again. The house became a temporary office. Each morning, I reviewed reports delivered quietly by Jonah. Transaction summaries, media sentiment analysis, regulatory timelines. Everything was mapped, dated, cross-referenced, not speculation, evidence. That distinction mattered. Marcus accounts were a study in arrogance, multiple entities, interlocking boards, shell companies stacked like false walls. On the surface, Hale Group looked diversified, profitable, stable. Underneath, it was hollowed out. I prepared affidavits, not to file yet, just to frame the narrative correctly. Language matters when truth becomes public. Every sentence must survive scrutiny. Emotion is irrelevant in courtrooms. One afternoon, Marcus returned home unexpectedly. I was in the living room, documents spread neatly across the table. He stopped when he saw them. "You're working?" he asked. "Yes." He hesitated, then walked closer. He picked up a folder without permission. I let him. "People reveal more when they think they've caught you." "These are internal," he said. "They're marital assets," I replied calmly. "And soon, public record." He put the folder down slowly. "You don't know what you're doing," he said. I looked up at him. "I know exactly what I'm doing." He laughed softly, not amused, uncertain. "You think exposure is power," he said. "You think investors care about morality. I think they care about liability," I replied. Silence followed. He left without another word. That evening, Victor arrived. He didn't sit. He stood near the window, looking out at the city. "We've crossed 38%, he said. "Direct and indirect holdings. Enough to block decisions," I said. "Enough to steer outcomes," he corrected. I nodded. "Good." He turned to me. "The Cross family is watching. I expected that. They won't stay passive." "I don't need them passive," I said. "I need them predictable." Victor studied me for a moment, then nodded once. The next morning, a black sedan followed me to physical therapy. It didn't try to hide. That told me it wasn't an attack. It was a message. I let it follow. Fear is only useful when it informs strategy. Mine told me the timeline was accelerating. That afternoon, I met Adrian Cole for the first time. We chose a public place, neutral territory, glass walls, staff everywhere. Adrian was calm, impeccably dressed, His handshake was firm but brief. "I've reviewed the preliminary data," he said. "It's worse than expected." "I prefer accurate to optimistic," I replied. He smiled slightly. "So do I." We spoke in terms of projections, not vengeance. Debt ratios. Asset stripping. Short exposure. Exit windows. His language was precise. Financial. Not personal. "You apply pressure here," he said, pointing to a chart. "The rest collapses naturally. That's the idea." He closed his folder. "I'm interested." "In partnering," I asked, "or observing?" "In acquiring," he said. I nodded. "Then we understand each other." On my way home, Jonah called. "Security breach," he said. "Minor. Contained." "Where?" "Cross-subsidiary warehouse. Fire inspection triggered." I exhaled slowly. "Good. Everything leaves a trail. Even sabotage." By the end of the week, regulators announced a formal inquiry into Hale Group's safety compliance. Stock dropped again. Board members resigned quietly. Legal counsel rotated out. Marcus stopped calling. Silence from him meant panic. Panic leads to mistakes. I spent the weekend drafting one final document. A notice of intent. Not to sue. Not yet. Just enough to inform the right people that escalation was possible. I sealed it and handed it to Jonah. "Deliver this Monday morning," I said. "Public channels." He nodded. Sunday night, I stood alone on the balcony. The city lights stretched endlessly below. Each one represented a transaction, a decision, a consequence. This wasn't chaos. This was alignment. The truth doesn't rush. It accumulates. And once it's complete, it moves on its own. Public shame is loud. Corporate collapse is quiet. The morning after the gala, the house felt hollow. Marcus didn't come home. I wasn't surprised. Men like him seek rooms where mirrors don't exist. Hotels. Offices. Anywhere except places that remember. I drank my coffee slowly and read the overnight reports. Market open. Hale Group down 12%. Pre-market litigation alerts, 3. Regulatory notices, pending. Media framing. Allegations, questions, internal review. No accusations yet. Just gravity beginning to work. At 9 sharp, my phone rang. "The board is convening an emergency session," Jonah said. "In person. They want you present." "I'll attend," I replied. "Send the agenda." The document arrived seconds later. Sparse, deliberately vague. That was fine. Ambiguity favors preparation. I dressed conservatively. Neutral colors. No jewelry except my watch. The cast was gone now, replaced by a discreet brace. Healing had progressed enough that I no longer needed the visual reminder. It was about authority. The boardroom was full when I arrived. Familiar faces. Some avoided my eyes. Others watched me carefully, recalibrating. Marcus sat at the far end of the table. He stood when I entered, instinctively. Old habits die hard. Power used to follow him automatically. Now it hesitated. "Elara," he said. I nodded once and took my seat. The meeting began with procedural language, motions, minutes, legal disclaimers. Everyone spoke carefully, as they should. Then the floor opened. One director cleared his throat. "Given recent developments, we need to discuss leadership continuity." Marcus leaned forward. "This is premature," he said. "There's no finding, no ruling." "Yet?" another director replied. I waited. Silence stretched. No one wanted to be first to look at me. Eventually, someone had to. "Elara," the chair said, "you've requested proxy authority for several shareholders." "Yes," I said. "They represent 41% of voting power." A pause. Pages shuffled. "That changes the math," the chair admitted. Marcus' jaw tightened. I stood then. Not abruptly. Deliberately. "I'm not here to speak emotionally," I said. "I'm here to speak structurally." I placed a folder on the table. Not thick, just enough. "Within the last 72 hours, I continued, Hale Group has been named in 3 preliminary safety inquiries. 2 involve sites approved under expedited internal review." Marcus looked at me sharply. These documents, I said, opening the folder, include transaction records, internal emails, and signed approvals. I slid copies across the table. Directors read quickly. They always do when liability enters the room. I am formally proposing, I said, that Marcus Hale be placed on administrative leave pending the outcome of all investigations, effective immediately. No raised voice. No accusation. Just process. Marcus stood. You can't do this, he said. This is personal. I met his eyes. This is fiduciary, I replied. The vote followed. Hands raised. One by one. No speeches. No drama. The decision was unanimous. Marcus remained standing as authority left him. It didn't explode. It drained. This isn't over, he said quietly. No, I agreed. It's not. He left without shaking anyone's hand. The press release went out an hour later. Carefully worded. Temporary leadership change. Full cooperation with authorities. Commitment to transparency. Adrian called that afternoon. Nice execution, he said. Clean. Clean lasts longer, I replied. Short positions are moving, he added. As expected. Good. By evening, Hale Group was trending not for scandal, but for instability. Analysts spoke in cautious tones. That was worse than outrage. Outrage burns out. Doubt lingers. That night, I received an encrypted message. Unknown number. Simple text. You're making enemies. I read it once. Deleted it. No reply. Threats that need announcing aren't immediate. The next day, regulators arrived at 3 Hale sites simultaneously, unannounced. Cameras present. Employees escorted out politely. Marcus was photographed outside a downtown office building, speaking urgently into his phone. The image circulated widely. A man used to command, now reacting. I didn't comment. I never comment when silence is more expensive. Victor visited that evening. Cross is restless, he said. They're testing boundaries. Let them, I replied. They're late. He studied me. You're enjoying this less than I expected. I'm not enjoying it, I said. I'm finishing it. He nodded. Outside, rain began to fall. Slow, steady, washing the city without asking permission. I stood by the window and watched headlights blur into streaks. Collapse isn't an event. It's a sequence. And we were right on schedule. I thought I understood how deep this went. I didn't. The first sign came quietly, the way real danger usually does. A legal memo. Forwarded without commentary. No sender name. Just an attachment and a timestamp. I opened it alone. It wasn't about Hale Group. It wasn't even current. The document was dated 19 years ago. A police report marked closed. Cause of death, vehicular accident. No further investigation required. My mother's name was on the first page. I read the report twice. Then a third time. The language was clean. Too clean. No witness statements attached. No photographs referenced. Just conclusions. I called Victor. Come see me, I said. He arrived an hour later, without security. He didn't ask why. He already knew. I handed him the tablet. He didn't sit. He read standing, his face unreadable. When he finished, he placed it back on the table carefully, as if it were fragile. You weren't supposed to find that yet, he said. Yet, I repeated. He exhaled slowly. The sound was almost a sigh. The Cross family helped bury it, he said, along with the Hales. I didn't speak. Silence gives people space to continue when they're deciding whether to lie. Your mother had evidence, Victor continued. Photographs, audio, proof of a fatal beating at a construction site, a Cross subcontractor, a worker who refused to stay quiet. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not pain. Pressure. She wanted to go public, he said. She believed the system would protect her. It hadn't. They staged the accident, he said. Brake failure. Clean enough. No one asked questions because no one wanted the answers. I looked at the window, at my own reflection layered over the city. And you? I asked. Victor met my eyes. He didn't flinch. I retaliated, he said. Not legally. Not cleanly. I removed one of theirs. Quietly. I nodded once. I hadn't expected innocence, only honesty. They protected each other after that, he added. Cross, Hale, local officials, everyone who benefited from silence. I closed my eyes briefly. This wasn't just about Marcus. This was inheritance. That night, I couldn't sleep, not because of fear, because my understanding had shifted. What I thought was a personal betrayal was structural violence passed down and disguised as success. The next morning, I asked Jonah for everything. All historical material, I said. Cross family. 25 years? I don't want summaries. I want raw. He didn't ask questions. The files arrived in waves. Shell companies dating back decades. Labor violations settled quietly. Non-disclosure agreements attached to wrongful death claims. Patterns repeating under different names. One entry stopped me. A payment schedule. Monthly. Modest amounts. Labeled medical support. Recipient, Naomi Cross. Sender, Reginald Hale. Marcus' father. I stared at the numbers. The dates overlapped with Naomi's pregnancy. I ordered a private DNA test that afternoon. Chain of custody documented. Laboratory accredited. Results sealed until delivery. 3 days later, the report arrived. Probability of paternity. 99.98%. Reginald Hale was the father, not Marcus. The implications unfolded instantly. Succession, manipulation, false heirs, asset transfers planned years in advance. This wasn't an affair. It was a strategy. I felt no satisfaction, only clarity. I scheduled the Cross Family Gala myself. A charity event, invitations already public, attendance guaranteed. Cancellation would raise suspicion. Perfect. Victor watched me draft the guest list. You're widening the blast radius, he said. Yes. Some damage can't be reversed. I know. The night of the gala, I wore black pearls, my mother's. I hadn't worn them since the funeral. The room filled quickly. Music. Laughter. Old money pretending to be benevolent. Reginald Hale was there. Naomi too, pale, smiling too tightly. I waited until the speeches ended. Then I stepped forward. I have a gift, I said, taking the microphone. The truth. The screen lit up. Documents. Account transfers. Medical records. The DNA report. Gasps followed. Then confusion. Then understanding. Reginald's face collapsed. Marcus lunged toward him. Security intervened. Naomi screamed. I didn't raise my voice. This, I said calmly, is what silence builds. I handed the microphone back and walked away. Outside, the night air was cool, grounding. Jonah joined me at the car. It's done, he said. No, I replied. It's finished. For the first time, I felt something loosen inside me. Not relief, release. Exposure changes behavior. People who once moved quietly begin to rush. They make calls at the wrong time. They trust the wrong intermediaries. They try to fix structural problems with temporary force. That's when they become visible. The morning after the Cross Gala, I was advised not to leave the house. I left anyway. Avoidance suggests fear. I didn't intend to offer that narrative. The car followed me halfway down Michigan Avenue. Dark SUV, tinted windows, same distance, same speed, no attempt to pass, no attempt to disappear. Observation. Not attack. Jonah noticed it at the same time I did. He didn't speak. He adjusted routes subtly, slipping through a parking structure and exiting onto a parallel street. The SUV hesitated, then continued straight. Confirmed, he said quietly. They're watching. Let them, I replied. By noon, the board reconvened. This time, the room felt different. Less hesitation, more urgency. News had moved faster than legal teams. Reputations were already calcifying. I entered as a shareholder, not a spouse. That distinction mattered. The chair cleared his throat. Before we proceed, we need to acknowledge the expanded regulatory scope. I nodded. Federal agencies don't like surprises, I said, and neither do markets. Documents were distributed. Updated figures. Revised debt exposure. Asset devaluation. Adrian's projections. Now circulating internally without his name attached. Silence followed. Then I spoke. I'm formally submitting notice of intent to acquire a controlling interest in Hale Group, I said. Contingent on restructuring. No one objected. That was the moment power shifted completely. Not loudly, not dramatically, just definitively. After the meeting, Jonah received a call. Intercepted chatter, he said. Third-party crews. Unaffiliated, looking for leverage. Where? I asked. Warehouse district. Old shipping yard. I exhaled slowly. They're late, I said again. That night, the attack came. It wasn't subtle. 2 vehicles. Forced stop. Aggressive maneuvering. Jonah handled the wheel. I stayed still. Panic wastes time. Shots were fired. Not toward us. Warnings. Poorly calculated. Then engines roared from behind. Victor's people. Motorcycles. Fast, loud, coordinated. The confrontation lasted less than 3 minutes. No deaths, no headlines. The attackers fled. 1 vehicle disabled. Occupants restrained and handed over quietly. By morning, the narrative was clean. Attempted robbery, no injuries, ongoing investigation. The truth would never be published. That was fine. It didn't need to be. What mattered was the message delivered back through the channels they trusted. I received it before noon. Meeting requested. Location attached. Abandoned warehouse. Neutral ground. Or so they thought. I agreed. We didn't go alone. The warehouse smelled like rust and oil. Footsteps echoed. The man waiting inside had a scar across his cheek. He smiled too easily. The Cross family sends regards, he said. They're prepared to negotiate. Negotiation implies equal footing, I replied. You don't have that, he laughed. We helped finish the Hales. We want territory. I didn't respond. Jonah moved first. Smoke filled the space. Controlled. Precise. Teams advanced from both sides. The scarred man dropped to his knees before he understood what had happened. 10 minutes later, everyone was zip-tied. Victor stepped out of the shadows. This is over, he said. The man nodded frantically. Outside, night settled over the city again. The next day, the announcement went live. North Shore Holdings had acquired a controlling stake in Hale Group. I stood at the podium as interim CEO. No celebration, no triumph. Just clarity. We are implementing new compliance standards, I said. Independent audits, full transparency, accountability. Questions followed. I answered only what mattered. By evening, arrests were made, cross-subsidiaries raided, accounts frozen, charges filed. Cornelius Cross died in custody 2 days later. Heart failure, complications, no evidence of foul play that could survive court. Victor didn't deny it. For your mother, he said. And so this ends. I looked at him. Tired. Older. Enough blood, I said. We build clean now. He nodded. That was the first time I saw him agree without resistance. The hunt was over. What came next would be construction. Power doesn't disappear when a war ends. It just waits to see who will use it next. The press conference was brief by design. I stood behind the podium, the new nameplate polished, the room filled with people who had already decided what they believed. I'm not here to promise perfection, I said. I'm here to promise visibility. That was enough. North Shore Holdings absorbed Hale Group within the quarter. Independent auditors were installed, contracts rewritten, liability acknowledged instead of buried. Some executives resigned. Others stayed and learned quickly. I didn't enjoy any of it. Enjoyment clouds judgment. Adrian worked quietly beside me. We spoke in margins, not meetings. He understood when silence was strategy and when action was overdue. One evening, long after staff had left, he stood at my office door. You could have taken more, he said. I took what was necessary, I replied. He smiled. That's why this works. Victor's health declined faster than expected. The doctors were careful with their language. Prognoses always are. He handed me his will without ceremony. Assets separated, instructions clear. No surprises. I built something dangerous, he said. You can dismantle it. I already have, I replied. Together, we created a security firm. Legitimate, regulated. A place for men who knew only force to learn discipline instead. Not redemption. Structure. Victor watched it from a distance. Pride mixed with regret. He walked me down the aisle months later. Thin. Slower. But present. The wedding was small. No cameras. No statements. Just people who understood the cost of standing there. On our honeymoon, overlooking a quiet lake far from the city, I told Adrian the truth. I'm pregnant. He didn't speak at first. He just took my hand and held it, not possessively, steadily. If it's a girl, I said, I'll name her after my mother. He nodded. She'll inherit something better. Now, when I look out over the city, I don't see enemies. I see systems. And systems can be corrected. The past didn't disappear. It never does. But it stopped demanding payment. I decided where it ends. And now, there is a future that doesn't require explanation. If this story resonated with you, you're welcome to stay. On this channel, I share stories like this, quiet, precise, and grounded in moments where power isn't loud but deliberate. If you want to hear more, you can subscribe. Not out of habit, just if these stories speak to you. Thank you for listening.